Hey, you are listening to Oh Crap Parenting with me, your host, Jamie Glowacki. This is a podcast for conscious parents who drop the F-bomb a lot. Hey, you guys. Welcome. So today's going to be a little quick and dirty. First of all, I am back in my winter wardrobe. It got chilly here kind of fast. Hope you're enjoying the fall crispness. And I am so glad the mosquitoes went back to hell from whence they came. Actually, this year for mosquitoes wasn't too bad. I had found this this soap from Mexico that's medicated. I honestly don't want to know what's in it, but I really wasn't that affected. So it was a good summer, but I'm looking forward to the Christmas of fall. So today I really want to talk about use your words. And can we just stop saying that? Use your words. Use your words. Very ubiquitous phrase that parents say all the time. The problem is your child doesn't have the words. When they are having a meltdown, when they are crying, and maybe even when they're whining, they don't necessarily have their words. Although with whining, technically, they probably have the words and they're just saying it in the wrong way. So let's go through a few things that I've already discussed in prior episodes, but I don't know, if you're new to my podcast, maybe you haven't gotten a chance to go back and listen to them all. And I think we can all always use a refresher. So the term acting out, and I talk about this a lot in Oh Crap, I Have a Toddler. Oh, they're just acting out. They're acting out. And it's gotten this bad label. Yes, they're acting out because they don't have the words. So often when we're trying to manage toddler behavior, we have to decode or translate what the behavior is trying to say because they don't have the words yet and they don't have a lot of emotional breadth, like with a D, breadth, right? They don't have a spectrum of emotions. And I always say toddlers think of emojis, that crying, laughing emoji, like when your kid's hilarious, right? And going off the chain because they know they're being a little clown. They have happy, they have sad, and they have pissed off rage, right? There's not a lot of nuance. And so part of our job as parents is teaching them that nuance through time. A lot of this just takes time and patience. And very often we say, use your words when they're like pointing at something and screaming or having a meltdown. I don't know what you want. Use your words. They may not know what they want. Now, if they want a sandwich that was cut in triangles instead of squares, that may be a definitive thing, but a large amount of behavior is from an unmet need. They don't have the capacity or the language to say, you've been rushing me everywhere and we haven't sat down and read 3 books in a row in 2 days. When was the last time you were like super nice to me and didn't say no to me all day? They don't have those words. And so almost always, we have to do a gut check and we have to say, what is my child missing? And I've been harping on this a lot in the podcasts. I think I've said it just about every episode. We always have to look to us. And I'm not saying it's your fault that your child is melting down. I'm saying we have to decode it and we have to look to us. How are we reacting? A lot of times when we see a meltdown, it has been a cascade of events that have led to that. It has been strung out. It has been too many activities. It has been not enough one-on-one time, maybe a rushed bedtime. Remember, bedtime is when kids fully decompress. So that is when they stall. And if you're rushing through that whole bedtime, they may have things to say, they may have needs. Sometimes we get so busy, we get so locked in, they've been in the car going from this to that to structured activity, and they're not having enough big play. Things may be rushed at work and dinner time's been late. And so now the bedtime's been continually a half hour late. Maybe they're underslept. Maybe their eating has taken a nosedive for some reason. Maybe they're getting sick. All of these things can be the root cause. So we don't want to rely on the term, use your words, because the very act of them melting down means they're having an experience that they don't have words for. And if they are exhibiting out of the blue, biting, hitting, something's going on. Something has changed. And so it's up to us. Is nutrition in line? Is sleep in line? Are they getting their control bucket full? Are they getting their connection bucket full? And almost always, guys, it's connection. Our kids really, really, truly, honestly need more of us undistracted, more helping with us, more feeling valued. And I know I've been harping on this, but I can't harp on it enough. It really, I can even see it in Pascal because he's so much older now and he's doing so many things. I can see now that some of his behavior is actually a little bit of like, hey, do you still care about me? Hey, am I still important? Sometimes he really is like, hey, do you have any food for me? And I realize, oh, he doesn't want to make all his meals yet. He wants to know that I'm his mom and I'm going to cook him food, you know? So even now at 18, I still have to do gut checks and say, when was the last time I touched this kid? A mother's touch is so valuable, parental touch, you know. And I think what happens is as they become teenagers, I told you I had to stop roughhousing him with him one day. Like we both looked at each other and we were like, oh, this can't happen anymore. Like at some point it becomes inappropriate, you know? And so I think, or, you know, it may not have inappropriate intentions, but at some point I'm going to grab his balls or he's going to grab my boob. So it's going to be like, oh my God, what just happened? So it does become like, yeah, let's not do this anymore. But the other night we were watching something and I just started kind of rubbing his leg and he was like, oh, I used to love when you rubbed my head. So I gave him a head massage and he was like, oh, that was so great. And it was like connecting. And I forget that at his age, he still needs that, you know, he still needs to be reassured. And so your little ones most certainly do. And in our rush, in our busyness, in our stressed out, burnt out state that every parent I know is in, those get sidelined because we're like, we got to get dinner on the table. We got to get you to bed. And I love that parents are sticking to like their rules and boundaries, right? Like we talked about, they're sticking to meal times and they're sticking to bedtimes, and those are awesome. But what is missing is often that connection. So don't use those words, use your words. Yeah. Because you just have to find what's going on. And like I said in a couple episodes ago, like just being there and validating, like I see what's happening. This is really hard for you. Yeah, I get it. And that can be just so much, that can de-escalate so much. Now, when it does come to whining, I want to remind you, we've talked about whining before. A lot of times kids don't even recognize they're whining. They've gotten tired and they don't know. And that's almost like, pay attention to me. I also hate the phrase, they're just doing that for attention. If a child's doing something for attention, it means they need attention. Yeah. So, and I know some parents say, oh, well, it's never enough. And usually if it feels like it's never enough, it means your child's in a deficit. And so you may have to do some more attention. It may have to be concrete. But going back to that family-centered life we keep talking about is if you include them in your life, include them, you know, modeling reading. We had talked about that. Like if you model reading and say, come sit with me and read your story while I read my story, and then we'll read something together, that's super connective. It can be connective watching a show together or watching a movie together. Family movie night can be highly connective. So it doesn't have to be screen free. It doesn't have to be playing nonsense. If you don't want to play pretend, do not play pretend. You're not meant to. You're a grown up. You're not meant to play pretend. And a lot of times we're just faking it and the kids can tell. And so that's almost wasted time because it's time that we're inauthentic. And so that connection's not really happening. So including them in as much as you can is one of the best ways to connect. And even recently, Pascal and I folded laundry together and we just ended up having a great conversation. So I think it's really, really important. Going back to whining though, or when your child's rude or they are using their words, the appropriate words, but they're using it in a really crappy manner, the simple phrase, try again, cannot be overstated. Try again, just simple. It saves a lot of language. These kinds of things elicit responses from us that are often over talking. You know, hey, the way you're talking to me is really rude. I don't appreciate that for all I do for you. And I only asked you a question and now you're saying it like this. That's all they're hearing, right? So just simply say, try again, you know, and if they look at you quizzically, you can say, try again in a different voice or a different way or a kind way. You don't have to use a lot of words to have the teaching moment. So don't use your words. And when they have their words, and it's coming out wrong, say, try again. So that's all I wanted to say today. Again, quick and dirty, just to remind you. Oh, you know what? I may not end right now because let's go over the arc of a tantrum. I have a whole episode on this, but again, it's totally worth revisiting. Remember that tantrums have an arc. Also remember that tantrums are developmentally appropriate. So I recently had somebody reach out in our parenting community asking about her 21-month-old and having, tantrums, and how can the child learn to communicate better? And that comes with time. So somewhere in that 16 to 24 month range, I call that the year you don't sit down, the year of screaming, and the year of active suicide. And what I mean by that, and I don't mean to trigger anybody with that term, but it's those that's when your child's like fully mobile, but with like no brain. It's the wildest thing. Like they'll go headlong right into an open stairway or not have any concept of depth perception. So it's like you don't sit down because your child like looks like they're just actively trying to kill themselves. You're like, what are you doing? Oh my God. And so definitely don't worry about that. And tantrums at this age are developmentally appropriate. The brain is exploding. Your children's skin is almost inside out. They are highly reactive. They have zero impulse control. The prefrontal cortex is maybe just starting to wake up. Like everything's stacked against them, and they want what they want when they want it. So it is pointing and screaming and falling out. And so those are developmentally appropriate. A tantrum has an arc. About a quarter away up the arc, if you can catch it with a little distraction, or, hey, why don't we try something else? Why don't we try to go outside and put our bare feet in the grass? That can be very useful. Looking for things around the house, like, hey, can you find 5 yellow things in the room? That can also be helpful. When I say distraction, I don't mean spinning plates. I don't mean bribing. I don't mean offering a show, a screen, a candy. That's not distraction, right? We're just trying to regulate their emotions by distracting them from what's happening in the moment. The moment's hot. And so now what we want to do is we want to like, hey, can we jump that track in their brain, right? So that's what I mean by distraction. And when the tantrum's kind of about a quarter of the way up, if you hit it at the right point, this can work and they can regulate their emotions. Hold on one second. I said something that I want to make a note of. And I'm also thinking that I have to do another episode on regulating and dysregulating. So let me make these notes really fast. Okay, so we're trying to get them to regulate in that moment. So those things are regulating, right? When we can get them to calm down, look for something. When we look for things, particularly outside, we open up our peripheral vision, because when your child is tantruming, they are going into fight, flight, or freeze. They're going to explode, right? And what happens is the vision narrows, just like if we were in a do or die situation. This is do or die for your child. It may seem meaningless to us, but it is do or die. So your vision literally goes to like a focal point, because you need to hone in on the enemy. The enemy might be you right now. So when we open the peripheral vision, right? If we open the scope, what happens is the child can start to calm down. It activates the vagus nerve and it can start calming them down. Looking for things is a great distraction. You're not bribing or trying to change their emotional state as much as regulate it. And looking for things just gives the eye something to do. It gives the mind something to do, and it can slow the breathing down. Breathing works great. If you can get your toddler to breathe with you, that's awesome. But very often it's a sketchy practice at 2 or 3. They don't necessarily get it. Some kids do, some kids don't. So that's ways that you can regulate their emotions. Now, once it starts to peak, right, you're about a quarter way up an arc. And once that starts to peak, you have lost it. They have lost it. There is nothing you can do but ride it out. Do not use any words. Do not speak to your child. Try to be very present. And that is present within action. Okay, that is called holding space. And you want to be there for your kid if you can, right? And hold the space for them while it comes down. I always suggest getting on the floor so you're not a towering, kind of threatening presence, and just kind of being really open, regulating your own breathing. Box breathing can be great. That's 4 breaths in, hold it for 4 seconds out, hold it for 4. It's a very awesome practice that Navy SEALs use to regulate themselves when shit's hitting the fan. So it can certainly work for a mom or a dad. And if you can just regulate yourself in that moment, that is the best thing you can do. Very often we can't, so, but know that if you can't, and let your child start to come down. Once they start to come down, offer them a hug, offer them a safe space. Holding them often helps. You can often feel their body relax. You can feel them decompress. You can feel like a lot of kids will do a deep sigh and maybe, hiccuping, crying. That is not the moment for a teaching moment. Okay. That is not the moment for, okay, you did X, Y, and Z and I didn't give it to you, or shut up. Just be quiet in that moment and move on with your day. You revisit what happened later when the child is far away from the hot moment, or the next time before you're going to embark on something. So say your child had a tantrum leaving the park. You don't discuss it after the tantrum. You just be there. And then tomorrow when you go to the park, as you're driving to the park, you say, okay, we're leaving when my timer goes off. I'll give you a warning, but I don't want what happened yesterday. Remember, you got really upset and it took a lot of time to calm down. Let's not do that today. Okay. So that's why that's where you want to revisit the teaching moment, not right when they recover, because that will usually reactivate them, or it's just not cool. Like nobody wants to be reminded of their shitty behavior as soon as they came out of their shitty behavior. Like we want a minute to recover and let it marinate and then do the learning thing. So a lot of people want to say mid-tantrum, use your words. And when they come out of the tantrum, let's talk about the next phrase you shouldn't say. Why'd you do that? Why did you do that? Why did you do X, Y, and Z? Anytime this can happen after a tantrum, or this can happen when your child does something really idiotic. And toddlers, oh my God, they do the most bizarre things. And so like things in the heating vent, I've heard all kinds of wild stories, toilets clogged. Toddlers do the craziest thing, but you never want to say, why'd you do that? That makes no sense. You're never going to get a good answer. They don't know why they did it. There was cause and effect. They thought it looked interesting and fun. So that's a phrase you can eliminate, because you're going to, for an older child who may have some words, they're going to be defensive because clearly it was wrong. And so you're going to put them in a corner where they might have to lie or try to scheme out of it, or just get crappy behavior because they feel shame. When our kids are tweaked with shame, that's when they go off the chain. So shame is a horrible emotion. All of us hate it. All of us will go to great lengths to avoid it. And little ones, what they will do is explode because it feels so yucky. Okay. So that's another phrase you shouldn't say. So I guess this podcast has turned into what not to say. But that's the arc of the tantrum. And it's wise to remember, because it needed revisiting, because I'm hearing a lot of people online talking about tantrums and trying to stop a tantrum at its peak. Dude, don't. It's like going against a tsunami. The best thing you can do is just let it go and not reactivate the child and keep reactivating them, but just let it run its course, be there and let it fall, let the chips fall where they may, and then help clean them up. All right. As always, I appreciate you guys. If you like this podcast, feel free to share it, subscribe, leave reviews. That helps get it into the algorithm. It boosts it up so more people can find it. Yay. And as always, rock on. Have a beautiful day.
Okay, bye everyone. Just a reminder, if you need additional resources, I have Oh Crap Potty Training. I have Oh Crap, I Have a Toddler. Those books are available everywhere you want to find a book. You can also go to my website, jamieglowacki.com, where you can book private sessions with me, buy any of my courses. Those are really geared towards potty training help. And also I'm on Instagram. I'm not on Facebook anymore, and I'm not on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, jamie.glowacki, and I do a lot of lives and usually posting a lot of good information. So those are extra resources for you. And as always, rock on. Have an awesome day.